This leads me to my third clarification, and that pertains to the HDB issue. I will be brief on this because I'm sure some of the other WP MPs will come in and seek further clarifications from the Finance Minister. On this topic and the Minister's iteration of this back and forth that's currently going on in the Straits Times Forum between the PAP and the WP, I'm reminded of what the government whip said many years ago in this House. Sometimes it's not just what you say, but what you don't say that also matters. And what the government is not saying, of course, is the context of the WP housing paper was in response to VERS, a government proposal which wasn't very clear and it was into the future. So naturally, the housing paper looks at a longer range forecast of the housing sector. And that was the context which I have not heard any PAP MP speak about. And in fact, they seem to be quite silent about it. And on this note, of course, I have to then come to the irresistible conclusion that it is a convenient distraction, because if indeed the point that was raised in the housing paper was critical, then the PAP would have raised it last year when the WP called for more HDB housing for singles. So I think it was a response to the housing debate. I think the PAP recognized that accessibility and affordability of HDB flats is a serious issue, but I will leave it at that on the point of context. The second sub-point, however, I would like to make is an issue that the Minister, the Finance Minister suggested, that we don't want to deal with the difficult problem of subsidies and grants and how much this may cost the taxpayer. Completely untrue, because we raised it in this House again, that the fact of the matter is more and more money, more and more fiscal resources are being diverted to the home ownership program. $1 billion, touching $4 billion now. And given the approach that we are taking, this is only going to increase. So when the Finance Minister says, when we ask questions about pricing of land and so forth, and he says this is a red herring, I respectfully disagree, because we have to try and understand how we can make the budget be balanced and how much is actually being devoted for a program which, the way we see it, is just going to keep going up and up and up. Finance Minister didn't, of course, clarify some of the specific queries that I raised in my speech about this, insofar as whether the government will reveal the subsidies for each BTO program, because it shows that actually there's some a point of inequity that I think needs to be worked on. But I'll leave it at that. I think the other WP MPs will come in with more clarifications.
And what the Workers' Party said in its working paper in 2019, and the context, which according to Mr. Singh was not said. Actually, I thought I said it in the speech. I fully appreciate the context because I was there in MND. The context was concern about decay of leases, declining values, but the context was also in the midst of falling resale prices for consecutive years. And the Workers' Party is not alone in highlighting that under such an environment, we better consider how many new flats we are putting out. Many experts shared similar concerns. I was under tremendous pressure to cut back BTO flats. There's no shame in acknowledging that you got that wrong, because many people did, right? And why not just acknowledge it, that this, yes, it may not have been a specific proposal, whatever you want to call it, but it was very clearly stated. We don't have to go through it. It's right there. I read the working paper from cover to cover in MND. I know what was said, and what was said at that time reflected the context of that time. A concern with overhang of supply, too many flats. If you build more flats, this is what will happen. So why not just acknowledge that you got that wrong? Like I said, no shame in it. Many experts thought it was the right thing to do at that time too. And we are not here to pass judgment, because with the benefit of hindsight, it's of course very easy to say no one would have predicted that you would have a COVID-19 crisis and what has happened in the last 3 years. No one could have predicted that. We didn't, Neither did the Workers' Party. No one did. So let's acknowledge, like I said, with some humility, what happened, and let's not rush to judge the current situation with the benefit of hindsight. Let's acknowledge that the current situation was created by a set of very unusual and exceptional circumstances. And the root of the problem is building more supply. And that's what we are doing. We are doing our best to try and fix the problem, not created by bad policies, by sacred cows which we are loath to slay, but by something that was exceptional, and we are doing our best to address it.